Hey 302, I'm Jackie Ferris. On this week's show, we give you things you can do to keep from going stir crazy. Whether it's sewing masks to help healthcare workers, an alternative to online streaming, or something to keep the kids busy. Stay tuned for another special edition of the 302. Hey 302, a lot of us are locked away for several weeks, possibly going stir crazy, and we're wondering what we can do to stay busy and maybe help. Well, I'm joined now by Kristen Barnacove Short. She's got an answer for a lot of folks that maybe have a sewing machine or, access to a needle and thread. Kristen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
So let's talk a little bit about your group. You wanted to help, and so you came up with an idea to sew masks for healthcare workers, right?
Correct. This all started because my daughter is a ICU nurse at BB Hospital, and so obviously looking at the news and just hearing from her about the concern for the personal protective equipment for healthcare workers, I just sort of thought, well, as a last gasp, I could put together some masks for at least for my daughter. And so my mother sews. And so I started this group with a friend. She and I had done another Facebook group successfully together. And I really didn't expect it to sort of become what it has. We now have about 2,000 people across the state of Delaware sewing. I estimate we've probably delivered about 6,000 masks. We currently have a very long list of people and facilities requesting those masks from us. And we've completed the requests of about 23 or 24 different, I call them facilities or organizations, just healthcare offices or nursing homes.
So let's talk a little about the process itself. Somebody sees you, how do you bring them into the fold to help?
Well, mostly it was word of mouth to our Facebook group. The group right now is a private group, but you can easily find it on Facebook and request to become a member. But people are inviting others that they know would be interested, and we've had quite a bit of press, so people have found out about us that way. So it's just sort of grown, a grassroots type of effort.
Sure. So if someone wants to join the group, they find you on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you have a pattern that they can download? Do you give them guidance on how to make these masks?
So there are a number of patterns, from a very basic, easy pattern that even I could learn because I am not a sewist. So I learned pretty quickly how to make one. And once you figure out how to do it, they become faster and faster. But there's everything from a very basic fabric mask, like 2-ply, 3-pleat with some elastic around the ears, up to more hospital style and hospital grade. So people are kind of making what pattern is that, suited to their skill level. And that's fine because we have plenty of places that are not particular about the type of mask, but there are all kinds of patterns. And mostly the Facebook group is helping each other with how to make them and tips and tricks, and working with each other to trade materials that one person has more and another person needs. So that's mostly what goes on in the group. And we're offering stipends to the folks in our group to offset the cost of materials. So I give out $25 stipends every 5 to 7 days. They can request every 5 to 7 days a $25 stipend. And I'm also giving stipends for sewing machines. So we're paying for sewing machines, 50% of the cost, up to $100 for a sewing machine. And that is to help us expand our capacity so that we have more people sewing.
Yeah, I would imagine that finding the materials, especially at this time of social distancing when the
Mhm.
stores are shut down, is a
Yeah.
little problematic for you guys.
Mostly the problem is elastic right now. Elastic seems to be, you can't really find it anywhere. A few people are finding some sources here and there, but we've just gotten creative about creating ties or using bias tape or just very. Some people are even using like elastic hair bands or those thin elastic headbands and cutting them to the right size. So people are getting really creative about how to put these masks together. So it's great to be in the group because uh, folks are showing each other, how we can get this done.
Talk to me a little bit about, you said you delivered a lot of these masks to the healthcare facilities.
Mhm.
How do you do that?
We have a lot of volunteers in the group who maybe don't sew, but what they feel they can contribute is delivering for either people who are at an at-risk age or they are compromised their health and don't want to leave the home. And so we really try to urge no contact pickups, leave them out front, and the delivery folks will come and take them. And a lot of people will just deliver them themselves. And so we work from a spreadsheet, and everyone can view that spreadsheet, and we update it as we go along.
Fantastic. The group is called Help for Healthcare Workers Delaware. If you want to find them on Facebook to give them your time, your talent, or possibly even some donations, Kristen Barnikov Short, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back.
You're watching the 302, and I'm David Bromberg. If you don't know who that is, don't worry about it. I have no idea who you are.
Welcome back. We're talking about things you can do when you're stuck at home during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm joined now by Alexandra Deutsch. She is the Director of Museum Engagement for Winter Tour Museum. Alexandra, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to talk to you today.
A lot of us are going stir crazy. We can't leave the house really, except to get groceries and things like that, essential things. But you guys have a way for us to visit Winter Tour, and without leaving our home.
We've been definitely ramping up our virtual experiences. I think all museums right now are faced with this. How can we bring the museum to people who are at home? And we've been doing a variety of things, and we continue to plan more things. One of the things I've been particularly involved with is these virtual tours, these videos of us in the galleries talking about objects and telling really interesting, engaging stories, some of them very relevant to today. We've been particularly focused on our exhibit that opened in February, Revision 2020 Through a Woman's Lens. There's just amazing stories about a lot of women who people have now never heard of, but were very influential during their lifetimes. And so we've been doing that. We have a variety of staff members who've been giving virtual tours of the rooms in the house, and that's been extremely popular on Facebook and Instagram. So those are mostly our collections related activities. We're working right now on how to bring more exhibition type experiences online for people. So while you're home, you can still have an exhibition experience. And then in the gardens, of course, because this is the height of the gardens and they were open but sadly had to be closed now, but every day posting images and videos from the garden so people can get some glimpses of nature, which is changing every day at Winterthur, and there's still enough staff who have to be maintaining the gardens that they're there capturing that for visitors. And we're working on a much more complex virtual tour, 360-degree virtual tours of the rooms, where you'll be actually able to touch on certain objects in the rooms and learn more about them.
You mentioned the gardens, and I know that you guys have azalea woods, and that's probably looking pretty good right about now. We're about to pop.
I the last time I actually was there, it hadn't bloomed yet. But I guarantee as soon as that's in full splendor, there'll be posts all about that. That's a big highlight for people throughout the month of March. The March Bank, which has thousands and thousands and thousands of bulbs, was blooming, and there were fabulous posts just showing how it changes every day, and it goes through different color tones. So we've been trying to capture that for people almost on a daily basis, and also just provide some fun activities has been another avenue of work going on in literature. So through our website, our growing group of activities that families can do with their children at home, from coloring book pages to other clever ideas for activities that our education and programming staff is continuing to grow, trying to help families who are now have children, particularly young children at home, who, if they're not doing remote schooling, need some interesting activities. So there's more ramping up on that. And I think that we're just going to continue to grow the offerings. Yesterday were talking about how can we even stream more chats with curators and other staff members. Quite a few museums are doing that. So that's some technology we're hoping to bring online in the next couple of weeks, where you could actually be chatting with me, but on your screen, we would be looking at an object or a space or an area in the garden together. It's always inspiring to look at nature. It's always inspiring to look at art and take a break from Netflix, as fabulous as it is, or other streaming, and just focus on things that are beautiful but also educational. And we're really, I think, making a huge effort to just shift that approach. A lot of our posts, of course, our scholarship is always there, but to make that scholarship approachable and relatable for people is really key, I think, to creating these virtual experiences.
Well, the 302 Loves Winter Tour, we just not too long ago did a whole show on Revision 2020. Hopefully we'll be bringing that to you, to our audience soon. But you also have Lady of the House coming up and some other things. Where can we go to find out when you have those live chat sessions and all of and everything?
So I would say right now, one of the best places is Facebook. There are several fabulous tours of the house that you can do on Facebook. It's really interesting because one is done from someone in conservation, and it talks about how we clean the objects in the house, which might sound kind of boring to people, but it's actually really fascinating. Gave me some tips on cleaning things in my own house, which I think sadly we all now have a lot more time to clean. And then some of the other tours are with one of our education staff, and they talk a lot about life at Winter Church. So it's not just about the decorative arts, it's about how people actually lived in the house. So those are really fun, all on Facebook. And as I said, the content will keep growing. I think it's something, if just once a day, if you want to check on Winter, there'll be several things that you can see, not only in the garden, but in the house and the collection. And it is amazing what we're able to do with technology. So Lady of the House, our exhibition about Ruth Wells DuPont, is marching forward. And as soon as we're able to get back in, we'll be able to start installing. We are in constant contact with the woman who's making the incredible reproduction of Ruth's wedding gown, her 1916 wedding gown. So we'll be teasing that out, giving some little hints about what that's going to look like. So stay tuned for more Lady of the House activities in the next couple of weeks. And as soon as we can get back in, we're going to get that show open for people, because that's going to be such a fun show.
Alexandra Deutsch, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back.
I'm Chris. Get your thrills on the 302.
Welcome back. We're talking about all the things that you can do while you're stuck at home. Now, if you have kids, you know that you've got to come up with a lot of activities. And we've got Megan Hawkins from the Delaware Children's Museum to talk to us a little bit about some things that we can do at home to keep our kids happy and busy. Megan, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. It's good to be here.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, things that we can do to kind of keep our kids, happy and occupied. You're doing a lot of stuff on Facebook, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we post on Facebook and Instagram most days of the week with different activities, whether they be art projects, simple experiments, all different kinds of activities that we hope that you'll be able to do with a minimum of supplies and with things that you can find around the house.
Now, you've got something that you wanted to share with us today?
Oh, sure. So I have supplies here for the Skittles Rainbow Experiment.
Oh,
All right, so I'm going to do this on a white plate. Another thing that you can use is a takeout container lid. And I just put a white paper underneath that
okay.
so that you can see the best contrast. And then I pre-sorted my Skittles here, but of course you just need a bag of Skittles. And you can dump them out and then pick out the colors that you like.
Okay.
And so then the first thing that you want to do to prepare your experiment is to create a pattern. And so I'm just going to keep going around in a circle here. I'm doing a red, orange, yellow. And I'm going to get, let's see, it's probably easier if I arrange for myself here. So I know what order to go in.
So you're trying to make a rainbow? Is that what's happening?
You could organize them in the rainbow colors, but the kids are really creative as to what patterns they want to make.
And this is also an opportunity to talk a little bit about why there is a rainbow, how a rainbow is created, things like that, correct?
Definitely. So one of the things that we really like is to be able to extend the experiment. We are happy about that. Okay, so I have my circle of Skittles, and then the only other thing here I need is some water. So I just put it in a cup with a pour spout, and I'm going to pour my water into the middle of my plate just until it touches the edge of my Skittle circle. And then you wait, and it doesn't take too terribly long. I don't know if you can see, I can see a little bit of color starting to come into the water now. You get to discover that the candy isn't all just one layer. In fact, it's made up of multiple ingredients and layers. You've got a clear coating on which the letter, thus the S, is stamped. And so one thing that we can look for, besides the colors that are spreading right now, is eventually we might get that layer to come off and you might see some whole floating S's in your water.
Really?
And then eventually, if you just keep the Skittles in the water, you will see the underneath layers. I mean, Skittles are mostly sugar. So you can see that my layers or my stripes, my sunset colors are just about getting close to meeting in the middle.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we really like this experiment. It's a great wow factor, and it's also nice because it doesn't take forever.
Now you have other things that you do. Talk to me little bit quickly about some of the other experiments and activities that you have on your website.
Sure. One of the things that we posted pretty early on is our tape painting.
Okay.
Or tape art. And so that's just whatever colors and widths of tape you have, you can use that for a project. Kind of going off that same thing is tape resist. And so this is where you would still put tape on in different patterns, but then you would paint or color whatever art supplies you have, and then you peel the tape off, and that's where the white lines are from. If you want to incorporate some writing into that, you can do your tape art, and then where the blank lines are, put a quotation, write a poem, so you can incorporate literacy and writing into the art. We also did, and it's, I don't know if it's raining where you are, but it's kind of rainy today. So we also posted some raindrop painting.
Interesting.
And this is where you can use your art supplies and the rain. This is washable markers. And I just did some dots on the paper and then stuck it out in the rain and brought it back in and saw how that changed my original colors. This is liquid watercolor, but you could use food coloring as well.
Now, all of these things are on the website. Tell me where we need to go and how often you post.
Okay, so you can go to, if you search on Facebook, Delaware Children's Museum, you should find our page, and then they're right up on our page. Some of them are videos, some of them are photographs, and they have instructions with them. And then we also Delaware Children's Museum on Instagram.
All right, Megan, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Have a great day. We'll be right back. That'll do it for this episode of the 302. We leave you now with the very latest update from the state of Delaware. Until next time, I'm Jackie Ferris. Stay healthy in the 302.
You can see the bottom line is hospitalization, and that's the thing we focus on the most to drive all the activities in terms of surge capacity in the hospitals, the number of hospital beds that we have, ICU beds, staffing for those beds, ventilators. That's an actual number from yesterday, 140. We're going to have a higher number. There are a number, I think it was 136 in Christianic Care yesterday that were waiting for test results. So that gives you some idea of what we might be looking at. And then as that infection, the number of positive cases increases, we'll expect a percentage of those hospitalizations to increase as well. Right now, for our planning perspective, I think the models we use are in the 20% range. 20% of the total positive cases might require hospitalization.